Good morning.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning. It looks beautiful out there.
Morning, everybody.
Hi, good morning.
You all looking forward to community tonight?
My wife tells me there's 400 and some odd women registered.
Oh my, last I heard it was 300 and something. That's very exciting, but it should be a really excellent program.
Be careful with that, Greg. Some odd women.
I live in a house with 3 left-handed women. What can I say?
Then they must all be wonderful.
Tremendous. Everybody's doing the typical 10:01 sign on because they know we're not going to start till 10:02. Wouldn't they be surprised if we started early one week, like a 10:01 and a half? Mix things up.
But then you'd have to change your opening line.
It's very true. Very true.
It's not that other people wouldn't know what to do. We wouldn't know what to do.
Rosalie, is the video all ready for next week? Is that next week? That's next week. Forum next week? Yeah. Because why just be board chair of the Federation when you can star in as a small character? No comment on the fact that I'm short, but small part character in the virtual Sherem Purim spiel.
We released the trailer yesterday.
Yes, I saw that.
Wow, you guys are like professional.
It's the real deal. All right, well, it is after said 10:02 time, so we'll go ahead and get started. I didn't know if anybody had any questions for me, which nobody generally does, but I'm apparently just here to open the meetings and close the meetings. But if anyone has any questions, let me know. Otherwise, I'll turn it over to Brian for what I think is a light agenda today.
We don't have any, there is no set agenda. I know that there might be a couple of announcements. Mindy?
Hi, good morning, everyone. I have 2 quick updates that hopefully you're aware of, but just want to put some reminders out there, and I'll put some links in the chat. One is about the Leading Edge survey. If you're eligible and interested in participating in this employee experience survey this year, the deadline to sign up is February 24th. In terms of eligibility, you need to have at least 6 employees, and full and part-time both count, and you need to have existed for at least 3 years. And just as a reminder, the purpose of this survey, one is for your organization. It's designed to give you insight into your employees' experiences at work in order to help your organization become an even better place to work. The survey focuses on a range of topics, including employee collaboration, leadership, and internal communication. It is a national survey, and you can compare your data to national data. And then in terms of the purpose for our community, if you choose to give permission for your organization's composite data to be included in a composite St. Louis Jewish community-wide report, we'll be able to identify opportunities to strengthen our community's Jewish organizations as a whole. Federation will not see your organization's individual data, and really this data will complement our findings from the organizational capacity survey that we did recently. So I will put a link in the chat to register for that if you're interested and haven't already, and thank you in advance to those of you who have. If you have any questions, please reach out to Nava Cantor. And then the other item I just want to mention and remind everyone is our organizational capacity workshop series, which Brian has talked about, I've talked about. We have 3 workshops that are being offered in response to the findings from our needs assessment around community-wide organizational capacity. And we're doing this workshop series in collaboration with the Millstone Institute. The first session is next Wednesday, the 24th at noon. And the topic is the collaboration continuum. We have over 50 people signed up. I will put the link in. Please, if you're interested and available, sign up, share with your staff, share with your leadership. The topics are things that we heard from all of you, and we, want to be able to help meet your needs as organizations. So Nanette Fridman is leading them. Those of you who have worked with her, she's really amazing. And as Brian has said, we're not doing the community calls on the Thursdays that we have the capacity workshop. So there will not be a community call next Thursday, but there will be this program on Wednesday. So if you have any questions, feel free to contact me, feel free to contact Nava or Marcy Mayer Eisen, and I will share those links right now.
So thank you. So first of all, on the Leading Edge survey, look, this has been a really strange year. None of us have been in a normal work situation, and we can't have been in touch with our staff the same way. And a lot of things comes out sideways. I'd encourage you, if you're eligible, to take part, to get a third-party kind of perspective, one that maybe people will be a little more honest about, to make sure that you guys are on top of what's happening. And if you do it, please share it with us. Our whole goal through the capacity building is to find ways to strengthen all of us collectively together. And if we have that amalgamated information, we can see some trends and issues and can help to provide things like the workshops that are starting next week on areas that may be of concern or opportunity, because they don't all have to be negative. So please take part if you can, and if you can, please share the information with us. And I want to remind you guys that these 3 sessions that are coming up over the next 3 months are based on the feedback and response that you guys gave us, and we are doing these because they're areas that came up as needs amongst all of you collectively and people who aren't on this call, and encourage you as much as you can to really take part. You can always learn something, but we wanted to make sure that we didn't take too much of your time, so we will not be meeting next Thursday as a result of that. So I hope many of you and whatever lay and staff leadership are appropriate are able to join next Wednesday on that. I see that David has joined the call. David, we're in session. You must be really bored.
Well, actually, the Senate canceled for the whole week because our majority floor leader is actually moving, which was convenient, and it's freezing cold and there's a lot of snow and ice. So it's actually been a little bit of a light week, which has been good. We can catch up on all kinds of other stuff. So there is actually a bunch of stuff that's going on right now, both at the state and federal level. Everybody's aware of that. So just a quick update on unemployment comp. Again, I'm really interested because I have heard nothing from anybody on this call or otherwise that you guys are getting any kind of concerned requests from the community about having unemployment comp being recouped. And I wonder if it's because they don't know what to do or what's happening right now. But I can tell you there are multiple bills that are moving through the legislature that prohibit the administration from trying to recover unemployment comp that was provided to individuals incorrectly calculated based on a state error, not based on an individual. I think that's probably going to pass, and I think that's going to happen. But it seems like the governor is continuing to say that he wants to collect back that money and kind of doubling down on that positioning. Not sure exactly why, but he is. Obviously, vaccine events are being slowed down because of the snow and the weather right now. My understanding is they're anticipating that picking back up. I just got a note from BJC that we're trying to stand up 2 additional vaccination sites that they're trying to get some help getting them through the Department of Health and Senior Services process, which we'll try and do for them. So I think that's standing up. The other thing about vaccine that you might be interested in, new study data came out from Pfizer. It says first dose is 93% effective within 2 weeks. So almost identical to the effectiveness of 2 doses as the first Pfizer dose. And depending on whether they ratchet back and the FDA changes the authorization for 1 dose versus 2, that could be a total game changer in terms of availability of vaccine early on. And again, we're continuing to hear that it's really erratic in terms of who's getting the vaccine, who's not. There's some equity issues involved. We were able to help the county out a little bit, getting some vaccines channeled to the public health department as opposed to the health systems, which they're continuing to get their flood of vaccines to really deal with some of the equity issues that are involved for people that don't have access to a health system. In terms of money, so we're in the realm of having what all of my friends are now terming stupid money. And so the level of money that is flowing into the state right now, it's going to almost go to the point where we expect a bunch of it to get pissed away because that's generically what happens. But there is so much money coming in, it's unclear that the states will actually be able to spend the dollars that are coming in based on the requirements that are coming with it. And so we've been working a lot with some of the appropriations folks on that to figure out a process. And Mindy Fredman, this might be your sweet spot, frankly, because what we're recommending to the state, and they seem to be, at least the appropriators seem to be kind of interested in this, is putting that money into a fund. And, you know, obviously expending some of the money that needs to be spent, but putting that money into a fund and then having essentially a task force or a work group of folks to be able to begin processing through what are the most pressing state needs. Obviously, there's a whole bunch of deferred maintenance and things like that that has to get done, that I'm sure will get done. But we're talking about like on the order of $7 billion flowing into the state between what is coming in from the December tranche that has not yet hit the state coffers. And if you kind of go through that $1.9 trillion package, which all of my colleagues in DC are telling me they believe it is going to happen. It is going to happen within the next 4 to 6 weeks. In fact, the House is now putting those bills back together. There is some belief that some of that money will get shaved off, but like even in the world of $1.5 trillion, it's still an insane amount of money. Just absolutely insane. Just to give you an idea, St. Louis County alone will get a $200 million direct payment for assistance with local revenue loss in preparation. And that doesn't even include the money that will go directly to Clayton, in University City, in Chesterfield, and all the other places. The city of St. Louis will get $90 million. So the region is going to get just a monster amount of money. And just kind of for context, the county's whole budget is a little over $600 million. It's like the amount of dollars we're talking about is staggeringly high. I mean, these are dollars that are kind of life-changing if they use them properly. And there is some conversation about setting up like almost an endowment or a sovereign wealth fund for the state. The problem is that most of these dollars have to be expended in a time frame like 2 to 3 years, and it's unclear whether something like that would qualify as an expenditure. So kind of that's where we are right now in terms of the dollars. So the good news is we are not in a dollar cutting perspective. We are in everything seems to be copacetic, which is good for our programs and the things that we rely on right now. We're also having a big conversation about Medicaid expansion. And I do think Medicaid expansion, especially with some of the mental health increases that are going into the governor's budget, this could be also a game changer for community organizations that are so used to supplying so many of these services using donor funds that we're going to have an entire education process with our organizations kind of explaining, hey, by the way, you don't have to do that anymore. Like you can actually draw down Medicaid funding for certain things and other funding sources, and you really don't have to do anything else other than that. Just like you don't have to use $100,000 of donor funds anymore for this purpose. You can get that in your Medicaid budget. We're also trying to help make sure that folks understand the rental assistance program that's coming online, both in St. Louis County and the state. So I think those are the pieces that are on my list. I'll shut up and try and answer any questions you guys have. And of course, the legislature is doing all kinds of other things. So there you go.
David, just curious as to the funds coming into St. Louis County. Is there, I know that these were COVID funds, but is there a specific criteria list for which these funds need to be allocated, or is that really the county's, all of the county's decisions?
Right, so there's 4 criteria, and I'm going to butcher these, Joan, but the criteria, it's called state and local money. And so in Missouri, there's about $5 billion that's going to flow in if that 1.9 trillion holds up. So something on that order. Missouri will get 2.8 billion of that, and then 2.3 billion will be distributed directly to local governments. And so the criteria for that are paying for anything that's COVID related, right? Any kind of equipment, PPE, all that good stuff. Supporting any kind of pandemic response, vaccination, anything the state has to do. The third category is additional expenditures which were made because of the pandemic. So these are all 3 variants on the same thing. But the fourth catch-all is revenue replacement for lost revenue, which could be construed as tax revenue, whatever you want to call it, right? And of course, St. Louis County, the state of Missouri, we're not sucking wind right now on revenue. I mean, revenue is actually pretty solid at the moment. So that's that catch-all bucket. And that money has to be used by the end of 2023. That's what that money is to be used for. So it is a pretty open bucket for the money. And it's also, I'm sorry, there's one more criteria. It can be used for preparation for future pandemics. Okay, so it could be used for infrastructure. So for example, one of the things that we're talking about at the state level is a CI bill, a capital improvements bill. What kind of capital improvements can we make to the current infrastructure? Whether that means, for example, on the mental health side, building behavioral crisis centers, right? Where law enforcement can take people with mental illness, so they're not taking them to a jail or to an emergency department, overwhelming the emergency department. Those are the kinds of things. So like for a Covenant, for a J, although I think we're a little ways away from that, there could be an opportunity for doing some capital improvements, for drawing some of those capital improvements to serve as a hub, whether it's the JCC or Covenant or collectively, frankly, as a community, to serve as a hub when these kinds of things happen, to have that infrastructure in place to be able to do these things. I'm not smart enough to envision what that's supposed to look like, but I think that's a real possibility with these kinds of dollars. And that's why I gave Mindy a nod early on, because I think that's meaningful. I mean, right now I know that FQHCs and community mental health centers have a list of $300 million worth of capital improvement across the state that they're bringing to the governor right now and asking for support. The other thing to keep in mind, as Karen Scheer is doing such a great job in building relations with our federal delegation, earmarks are back. So for those of us that care, we were big recipients of earmarks years ago. In fact, the NORC program is, the genesis of that was a $1.3 million earmark that Senator Carney at the time and Senator Bond helped us secure. So we are not strangers to earmarks. Senator Bond is going to be, Senator Blunt is going to be an amazing senator in terms of earmarks. He understands that. He is like Senator Bond was in terms of wanting to bring money home and seeing that as a really important part of his job. So look, I think we're entering a new world here, where these things are on the table.
Do you see anything that's down at sort of the more granular level in terms of these state funds that are being appropriated? Things like, building HVAC systems, filtering, that kind of thing, that would be part of this? Or are you seeing it more on a broader community scale?
No, I think all of that is part of it. So you're a perfect example, and so is the J, frankly. The idea that you would have an expenditure to upgrade your facility, Now you've just built your facility, so I'm not sure we're going to upgrade your facility, but like to include an air filtration system. So like the adult daycare at the J, right? That is a total, like to me, that's a total fit, right? We need an air filtration system for those folks, just like schools. So one of the pots of money is going to be for K-12. It's huge. I mean, it's in Missouri, if the 1.9 trillion holds, we're looking at $1.7 billion to K-12 alone over the next 2 years. I mean, by my calculations, that fits into the realm of a ton of dough. And so like, but part of that is going to be rebuilding schools, you know, so they have the proper air filtration system. And what I think is going to happen with that, and I'm rambling a little bit, but what I think what's going to happen is a carrot and stick approach. So the state is going to say, we'll rebuild some of your schools, but we need you to consolidate. We need you to do this. We need you to do that. So like all that education policy around schools that folks have been talking about, here's a carrot now to get them to move in that direction potentially. But yeah, I mean, I think all of that stuff is in line. It's totally appropriate for these dollars. And I really think the state's going to run out of places to spend this money. And so at 200 million, I'm not sure the county won't either.
So Karen just put in the chat that she was on the phone with Blunt's office this morning, and they are asking for a list of potential earmark opportunities. And I would just say, Karen, I know that you put that in there. What does that mean? How should we funnel those things? I don't want just random things coming. If people have thoughts or suggestions, what does that mean?
Well, that was just the conversation I had this morning that Blunt's legislative assistant has to submit them by tomorrow. And so you mentioned earmarks. If there's anything specific that you want me to share with the office, to please let me know. So if you want to send those to me, I'm going to shoot her an email later today after I talk to David more too, if there's anything specific that she can bring to him.
So it's going to be hard because we've done this in the past. And in order to really ask for an earmark, it has to be really well thought through. It has to be, here are the costs. These are going to be the, you know, here's what we're going to do with that money. Here's going to be the benefit of that money. You know, the one thing that I always tell folks is, even though maybe something is due tomorrow, some days you pass on that, because putting your senator in a position of having to defend something they can't defend or don't understand well enough is way worse than passing on an opportunity.
Thank you. Yeah.
So like that may be true, but remember, this isn't the only game. There will be, they have turned earmarks back on, which means it's back on. So, and I think that's probably the Blunt folks are scrambling right now because they turned them back on and they're not sure what the timeline is. So if our community has some thoughtful ideas that we can put into kind of a mini proposal, that's where we need to start.
Yeah.
And they should go through the Federation.
And David, there was another question from Rabbi Novak in the chat around municipalities running programs for local companies to recover lost revenue. Will there be a statewide program that includes not-for-profits?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. I apologize. There's going to be so many pieces and parts of this. Like one of the things that we're working on right now is the unemployment comp fund to make sure our nonprofits that have been paying back to the unemployment unemployment comp fund have the ability to get some credits back for that, because we're about to pay for all the for-profits that are insured. So we want to make sure we do some of that as well. So we got a lot of stuff coming at us right now. And as it comes out, we're going to tell you anything that's available for the nonprofit community, we will try and get to you immediately.
Thank you. Anything else for David? Thoughts, questions, concerns? David, thank you.
You bet.
Okay, so for no agenda, we're 23 minutes in. Which is typical, right? Does anybody have anything that they would like to share, bring up, concern, tell everybody about? All right, Greg.
Oh, I'll guess I'll do my usual, which is thank you all for joining us. If you think of anything after we hang up, reach out, let us know. We can address it. Remember, next week, we're moving from Thursday to Wednesday. Wishing you all a good early Shabbos and hopefully a peaceful weekend with no more sub-zero temperatures and no more snow, because I've had about enough of this. Be
Thank you.
safe. See you all soon.